All right, successful year. What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. Dugas, coming at y'all with another episode of Dropping Dimes with Mr. Dugas. And today I'm going to take a look back at Brian Kelly's first year as the LSU football head coach. And I'm gonna just go through every game that I can remember off the top of my head and just give my overall thoughts on what the team did this year and the outlook for next season. Before I get into this video, for everyone, if you want to give me a follow on my social media platforms, I'm gonna have all that information down in the description box. May not always get a chance to respond to questions and comments on these videos, so feel free to DM me. Whenever I get a chance to, I'll get back at you. Come holler at your boy. Also, if you're a Madden player on Xbox One, I'll have my Xbox One gamer tag down in the description box also. Brian Kelly's first year at LSU, was a good one. Finish off with a 10-4 record. I feel like most people, if we talked about before the year started, if LSU would win 10 games, would be a tremendous success, regardless of what fashion they did, especially being the SEC West champs and playing for the SEC championship. Especially after that first game. Look, I was there in New Orleans when LSU took on Florida State. And it wasn't pretty. The first drive was okay. Jaden Daniels had the big run. We kicked the field goal. We couldn't block Florida State. And then despite all of that, we had the chance. We drove all the way down at the end, had a chance to kick the extra point, to send the game into overtime, and it gets blocked. Now, a couple of things from that. Florida State actually did have a good year. So the loss is not as bad as we originally felt it was because Florida State had been struggling, under Mike Norvell, and he was typically on the hot seat. But Florida State actually had a good year, too. But, that loss wasn't cool, man. And after that, it was a lot of questions arose, and it just was ugly. Then after that, man, we had the big city battle where we took on Southern University. And to me, that game was more about bringing the community together as opposed to what actually happened on the field. The best part of that game was the halftime show. So it ain't really much to elaborate on that particular game. Then after that, I want to say it was it the Mississippi State game. And look, shout out RIP to Mike Leach, man. Real sad, tragic situation, man. Guy was awesome, and it's tough to see him go out, man. I don't have the games all in order, but I'm gonna pull up the schedule just to make sure I don't, mess up the order of the season. But I want to see the Mississippi State game was third. In that game, things got a little bad early on. LSU went down, was it 13-0 in that game? Yeah, it was Mississippi State. I had it right. LSU went down 13-0 in that game, but in the second half did a masterful job defensively. And was able to get, including Amani Goodwin had a big long run. LSU wins that game. Brian Kelly's first SEC game in Death Valley. Everything looking cool. We 2-1, feeling good. Next game, we took on New Mexico at home. Obviously, not much to take away from that game. LSU wins it 38-9. As that game got us ready for the big one at Auburn. Go to Auburn. Now, granted, Auburn was not a great team this year. Auburn wasn't great. Auburn did end up firing Brian Harsin. But, that's always been a tough place for LSU to play, even when Auburn is not very good. And lo and behold, LSU was down 17-0. But, with a combination of the run game and the defense forcing turnovers left and right, LSU had a nice come from behind win on the road. And it's always nice, to beat the Auburn Tigers at Jordan Hare. And that's something we accomplished last night. So that was pretty awesome. Then the following week, you got ugly, man. The Tennessee Volunteers came to LSU. Look, we knew Tennessee was having a good year, but we like, man, nah, they coming to Death Valley. They don't know what they about to get into, and man, boy, I tell you, they just knocked us clean out, man. They just knocked us clean out, man. Tennessee had a really good year, obviously. We did at the time we didn't know they were that good, but I know Hendon Hooker got injured, but while he was healthy, man, Tennessee had a great year. Tennessee ended up winning the Orange Bowl, yo. But they beat us up pretty badly, 40-13. Brian Kelly did not look good as a head coach in that game because of just a lot of questionable, decisions he made as far as not deferring, going for it, and stuff like that. It got real ugly, man. Then the following week, we go on the road and we go to the swamp and we beat the Gators 45-35. And Jaden Daniels, who got a lot of criticism, especially after the Auburn win, was starting to look like maybe should we turn to Garrett Nussmeier. But LSU, right? Jaden Daniels has a masterful performance, throwing the ball, running the ball. The offense was just extremely explosive, better than we could have ever asked the offense to be. And LSU wins. The defense wasn't as great, but LSU gets a big road win over the Florida Gators in the swamp on the road, and we looking at it like, LSU has never beat Florida and Auburn on the road in the same season, so that was just a really, really huge accomplishment. After that, we get Ole Miss at home. Ole Miss coming in undefeated, number 6 ranked team in the country, high-powered offense, the lane train, all that good stuff. They jump out on LSU early. I forgot. I think the score was what? I forgot what the score was. It 13-0 or something like that. Well, I forgot what the score was, but Ole Miss jumped out on LSU early, and then Jaden Daniels once again. That's probably since Joe Burrow, probably the only quarterback, or maybe like a Jamarcus Russell, the only LSU quarterback that I could think of that had better back-to-back games as an LSU quarterback, man. He's in the top 3 of that I've ever seen. When you go from what he did at Florida and then what he did at home to Ole Miss, where he was just out spectacular again. It was a lot of hope. It was a lot of optimism, man. The defense played well, shut down that high. Now, granted, we did realize Ole Miss was not as good as the as the record said at the time. They ended up being a very average football team, but at the time they was flying high, and LSU just went out there and completely demolished them, 45-20. Then we had the bye week, man, and then we had the big one. We had Bryce Young, Will Anderson, Nick Saban, and the Alabama Crimson Tide coming to Tiger Stadium, coming to Death Valley. We never beat them at home since, 2006. We haven't beaten them at home since 2006. Night game, is one we want to have, man. And Jaden Daniels, once again, was outstanding. Like, played a magnificent game. We know how it all went, man. Back and forth, one of the best college football games of the year out of any conference, any team. And we rose to the occasion. And we get the dub, man. And at the end, go to overtime. They score first. Jane Daniels runs, and then Brian Kelly, which was by far his best moment this year as the LSU head coach. The moment where everybody like, all right, he good with me. Even if you were skeptical of him before this game, everybody was good with Brian Kelly after this game. And they called a perfect 2-point play. Jaden Daniels hits Mason Taylor, and wow, man, just what a night. I remember that night like it was yesterday. That was just a lot of fun. It was a great night to be an LSU fan as we finally beat Alabama at home. Then after that, obviously, it was extremely hard. Got to go on the road to play rival Arkansas. And look, those people in Arkansas hate LSU, man. And it was an ugly game. Jaden Daniels was not nearly what he was those previous games. But it was the Harold Perkins show, yo. Harold Perkins was the National Defensive Player of the Week that week. Had 4 sacks, forced some fumbles. Really, really ugly game, but LSU was able to get the dub, man, and that's all that really mattered at the end of the day. LSU went on the road and won an SEC West game, 13-10 to beat Arkansas. And following week didn't really matter, man. We played UAB at home, which the spread was not that high. It was probably only like a 14.5-point spread, and LSU pretty much dominated that game, 41-10. Then it was the moment of truth, man. LSU at the time was ranked number 5 in the college football playoff rankings, to where we're all sitting back like, yo, if we beat A&M and we beat Georgia despite us having 2 losses. This team gonna go to the college football playoff. That was, especially after Florida State and Tennessee, that was completely unimaginable. But it was a real reality. And most of the pundits and people you talk to say, yo, if LSU wins out, yeah, they get, despite having 2 losses, an SEC champ that beat Georgia, they're going to be in the playoff. And that was just outstanding. And we had it all in front of us. And then to me probably came Brian Kelly's worst moment, man. We go on the road against a terrible, not from a talent perspective, but from a results perspective, a terrible Texas A&M team, man, and lose 38-22 and just absolutely, get dominated in this game, yo. And I tell you what, it wasn't fun. Like, it was not fun. Did not enjoy that. It was a gut-wrenching loss. We knew that at any chance we had of a playoff berth was gone. It was frustrating. It was a devastating loss. Then we followed that up going in the SEC championship game and losing to Georgia 50-30, which honestly the game wasn't really even that close. So the season ended on a sour note. But we always like, okay, we got 9 wins. We kind of overachieved a little bit this year. Then we go out that other day in the bowl game against, I know Purdue was not at full strength, but to just absolutely demolish Purdue the way we did, 63-7, I feel like gives us a lot of optimism going into next year, especially when you have Jaden Daniels, Mason Taylor, Malik Neighbors, Harold Perkins. These are all guys that had huge games in this game that we know will be back next season. They got something to build on, some momentum to take going into the spring, going into the fall, and going into the game when we go to Orlando and get our rematch with Florida State next year, who's supposed to be pretty good next year also. For overall, man, LSU had a successful year. Very successful in Brian Kelly's first year. I was thinking LSU would be like 8-4 or something like that. So they were 9-3. They exceeded my expectations, and I feel like exceeded a lot of people's expectations. Going into next year, year 2 of the Brian Kelly tenure, assuming we're healthy for the most part and don't run into some just real tough luck, I feel like LSU gonna have a really good year, yo. When you look at the division in itself, Alabama's losing Bryce Young and Will Anderson. They got to break in a new quarterback who's not Bryce Young. I don't care who they get. He ain't going to be as good as Bryce Young. Now, look, they still going to be talented with all their weapons, but he's not going to be as good as them. And we do got to go to Tuscaloosa. Though before this year, we've played better over there than at home. Ole Miss, we got them, but I feel like we could take care of them. A&M should be better than they were this year. We do get them at home. They haven't beaten us in Tiger Stadium yet. Arkansas, I think they're losing KJ Jefferson, so they're breaking in a new quarterback. Auburn got a new head coach. I think they're going to eventually get better. I don't know about year 1, but I think they'll be better under Hugh Freeze, at least for the long term. So look, LSU has a chance to compete for the SEC West again next season. With Jaden Daniels coming back, the offensive line being more experienced, a lot of the skill players returning. Malik Neighbors looks like he's ready to take on that role of being the next great receiver at LSU. And defensively, you lose a couple of people, but you do have Mason Smith coming back, who missed all the last year, got hurt in the Florida State game. You do get Harold Perkins back. Imagine how much better he'll be in year 2. The secondary is going to be kind of shuffled around a little bit, but you do got some young guys and some transfer guys coming in. So we're going to see how the secondary look. But overall, I feel like LSU is going to be a really good team next year, yo. I ain't got the schedule in front of me to go through schedule by schedule, but with the recruiting class coming in, the players coming back, and the coaching, I look forward for another fun LSU season next season. But tip my hat to Brian Kelly and staff. Really, really memorable, good first year for him. But with that being said, that's all I got for y'all today. Appreciate y'all checking out the video. Hit the like button for your boy. Give me a subscribe. I have LSU, NCAA, and content on my other teams throughout the year. Y'all have a blessed one. Go Tigers.